Daf Lamed Gimel of Torah, page 33. We're up to the first new paragraph, וזהו ענין. In the desert, the Jewish women gave mirrors. They donated mirrors for the kier, the sink of the basin of the Mishkan. Now it says maros in plural. There are two types of glass, two types of, or you could use metal as well. But the two types are specifically with glass. There's the see-through magnifying glass, and then you have the mirror reflective glass. And the difference is that when you look through a magnifying glass, you're seeing the actual thing directly, whereas with the mirror you're not seeing it directly, you're just seeing a reflection of it, and therefore it's less direct, it's less real. On the other hand, the mirror does have some advantages. You can see yourself together with what you're looking at, and that represents that the first one where you see directly is like Moshe, who sees Hashem directly, whereas other prophets see only a reflection of Hashem. They're like the mirror, and yes, the mirror is lower, but on the other hand, the mirror, it takes more effort when you're further away and you still see. And that's like when the neshama, when the soul is in a body and it's dark and it's in an animal soul and still it comes to Hashem. So that's like the mirror, which actually has an advantage. It's like all our efforts where we transform the animal soul to Hashem. And this is higher than mitzvahs, because this is like the idea of tshuva, which is greater than regular mitzvahs, and therefore elicits in a way from a greater place. Now, the question is that if the neshama is spiritual, if the soul is spiritual, so we said before that yesterday we said that the soul uses the garment of mitzvahs in order to take in Hashem's light in Gan Eden. If the neshama, the soul, is spiritual, why does it need mitzvahs to protect it from the light being too much? So the answer is that although it is spiritual, but it's still part of, it's still creation, whereas Hashem's light, it's the light beyond creation of the creator, and therefore the neshama needs this protection. Now we continue that the reward in Olam Haba has two aspects. It has the pnimi aspect, the internal light which is taken in, and that's the idea of having pleasure from ziv hashchina. And then there's the makif aspect, like it says that the atreseim bereshem, the crowns are on the heads. The crown surrounds. So that's the makif energy, which is like the light, which is not with the mirror, which you don't get the light directly, but it's only reflective. Whereas the pnimi energy is like the magnifying glass. Now, both the neshama and mitzvahs are both called a ner. They're both called a lamp. A lamp has is light, and it has these two ways. It has the direct light and reflective light, like ar yashar ves ar chayzer. And the mitzvah is like the direct light, whereas the neshama is when it gets involved in a nefesh hamis with the animal soul, so it's like this reflective light. And this also corresponds to the wick versus the fuel, that the wick can be closer to the fire, whereas the fuel is what energizes the fire, but it can only do it when it's a little bit removed and going through the wick. So that's like the soul is like the soul is like this wick, and the mitzvahs are like the fuel, and they can only take it in through the wick. The mitzvahs can't directly be the fire of the neshama. And there are two types of fire. There's the white fire and the dark fire. The dark fire is right by the wick, and that's dark because it involves fighting, and transforming the physical into Hashem, whereas the the white fire is that pure fire when there's no struggle, and that's the light from the light which is just purely within Kedusha. And that's like the magnifying glass, whereas the dark fire is like the mirror, where you're transforming the animal soul and transforming the physical into Hashem, like what we have in this world, unlike where it's just purely spiritual and then it's just the white fire. Now, in the Beis Hamikdash, there were seven lamps. There were 7 branches of the menorah, whereas on Chanukah there's 8. This is reminiscent of the pasuk in Micha that talks about the 7 רואים, the 7 shepherds, and the 8 Nesichei Adam, the 8 princes of humanity. The 7 shepherds include figures like Avram, Yaakov, and Moshe, David HaMelech, Adam, Sheis, Mishaselach, and these were leaders of their times, and they were shepherds that they would teach and guide their people, whereas the Nesichei Adam have a different group. Some of them were leaders and some of them were private tzaddikim. Like, for example, Yishai, one of the Nesichei Adam, one of the princes of humanity, was a tzaddik, but he wasn't like a king or the leader of the sort of active leader in that same way of his people, of that generation. He was a tzaddik. So the difference is that the shepherds, they work on internal to let their what they're trying to give really permeate through their people. And what happens actually is that when the shepherd tries to help and sustain and feed their flock, they end up getting sustained as well. And not only the shepherd, but actually Hashem as well. That when we bring this light of Hashem onto us, it also brings us to Hashem's midas. But either way, the shepherd is giving it internal hashpah, panimi hashpah, mamale hashpah, mamale type of influence, internal influence that they could take. Whereas the princes, they're less involved. It's not like a shepherd who constantly gives food to the sheep. He's a prince. He doesn't have to do anything. That's what he's called. He's called a prince. And that is a sort of a little bit of an indirect influence, but still a powerful influence. On the contrary, the princes give a Soveb impact, a Soveb influence, a surrounding influence, something that can't be taken in an internal way. It's like someone who, the difference between someone who actively is Makar, someone actively brings someone close to Hashem and to Torah mitzvahs, versus someone who just davens, and his davening is so powerful that someone else who hears it is awakened with tshuva to return to Hashem. So although the 8 is in a way external, but on the other hand, it's also a higher level of light. It's like the difference between learning from a tzaddik versus just serving the tzaddik and experiencing the tzaddik. That the learning is that you only learn as much as you understand, whereas the experience and the serving is a connection which is beyond what you can take in. And this is also the difference between Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who was a great Talmid Chacham, versus his student, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. But Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa's prayer was accepted more powerfully and quicker than Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. The reason is because Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was on a mamale level, pnimi level. He could connect Hashem as much as he can take in. Whereas Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa is connecting in a Soveb level, in a like the light which is beyond the light that surrounds level, and therefore he connects even beyond what he could take in. It's unlimited, and that's like the 8 days of Chanukah, the 8 lights of our menorah, which is a higher level of light than the 7 branches of the menorah, which is only like the shepherds, which is what we can take in an internal manner.